great start. So what I'd like to take you on in the next 20 minutes is I'm not going to be able to teach you how to do product thinking in 20 minutes. But what I do hope to do is to get you inspired and thinking about product thinking as a lens that you can use across your entire business, and to maybe broaden the aperture on what you view is a product and who's a customer. Because when we talk about product thinking, it's about delivering on a differentiated customer experience where that product solves somebody's problem better than other products in the market. And when we talk about customer experience, we talk about how do you deliver a branded customer experience that actually builds brand equity for your business in the marketplace. So how can you be really deliberate and intentional about that? So we're going to start, I'll get a finicky clicker, sorry. We're going to start with a little history lesson. So one of the key themes I think we all face is the velocity or the acceleration of technology continues to increase at a logarithmic scale. And so what we can look at is, this is a little history lesson of the last 100 years, and there's probably 100 different ways someone could build this chart, and there's probably 100 different arguments you could make of why something's not on it or not. But the point of this illustration is to show that, in the last 20 years, the number of innovations have far eclipsed the previous 80. And in the past 10 years, since 2010, a new or significant or disruptive innovation has hit the market every 18 to 24 months. So what does that mean? It means that the shelf life or the half-life of new ideas continues to compress. And so what do we do in a world where the shelf life of ideas is continually decreasing? And one of the things I hear a lot when I work with clients is this focus on time to market. And what I would propose is that we need to make a shift from thinking about time to market to thinking about idea to value. How do we move more quickly from that process in our business that generates ideas to recognizing the value of that idea as quickly as possible, such that we take advantage of the full opportunity before that idea expires, right? So there's an opportunity cost to delaying or having bureaucracy around deciding what to do, are we going to fund it? And actually, over the past few years, I've run a number of executive CX roundtables with people like yourselves, and we talk a lot about this topic. But what is a resounding common theme among these executives that they are frustrated with is they say, Joe, it takes us way too long to fund a new idea. The biggest impediment to innovation is not building something once we decide what to build. It's deciding to build it, deciding to fund it, and getting through that bureaucratic process. And we've seen it over the years with different agile practices, from agile to safe and so forth, where large companies, especially, I love the term digital immigrants. So our friends, one of our acquisitions the last few years was a company called Connected, really great product company. But some of my friends there love to talk about the difference between a digital native and a digital immigrant. And so you see these digital immigrants are long-standing companies who can't get out of their own way. Their corporate finance functions want to see a complete and detailed product roadmap before they release any money around what that product is going to do. So we live in a time where we can't afford that anymore. So moving into a couple of examples. So I'm going to take you through a journey of a couple of case studies here of different companies that I think illustrate some of these concepts that I think are important around product thinking. So let's start with Ford Canopy. So the interesting thing about this story is Ford started with this idea of how might we create ring for the F-150. And they were a little bit stalled, and so they did two things. One was they engaged with our connected folks out of Thoughtworks Canada to help them drive a really thorough product market fit analysis, but they also spun off a different organization. They literally separated the Ford Canopy team from the bureaucracy that was Ford. Because the automotive industry, let's face it, is famous for a 3 to 5 year product life cycle anytime they want to deploy anything new in a car. So Ford was smart enough to know that they needed to break something off in order to drive this innovation. But they also made this realization that the customer value proposition they were trying to deliver on was that tradespeople had their entire livelihoods stored in their truck or in their van. And when traditional automotive security solutions, while your alarm's going off, someone's stealing your livelihood and putting you out of business. So the customer value proposition was, how do we actually create a customer solution that was akin to a home security solution? And through this process of a lot of test and learn, a lot of fail fast, they landed on an integrated solution that merited a $100 million investment from ADT in a joint venture around reinventing vehicle security. Another interesting example is John Deere. So John Deere has always been a forefront of their brand in their marketplace. But they found themselves at a juncture where their existing e-commerce platform was an impediment to innovation, an impediment to growth. But rather than just look at it as, oh, let's do a traditional legacy modernization project where we move our legacy e-commerce platform to something more modern with the same features that it always had, the question was more, how do we actually build a better marketplace? How do we expand our addressable market? How do we navigate these really challenging issues of a really complex spectrum of clients that we have? So we have our dealer networks, which are vital to reaching our clients, but we also want to have a higher level of intimacy with the end customer. So how do we solve both of those on an e-commerce platform that we can get live quickly, but in a thin slice, minimum lovable product approach, build a bigger marketplace where we're just not selling you a tractor, we're making you a better farmer. So that's another theme that we see when people really apply product thinking in a broader sense around complex customer ecosystems, complex delivery networks. You can actually expand your addressable market, not just increase your market share. Mondelez. This one is one of my favorite case studies because Mondelez was doing generative AI before generative AI was cool. So the thing about Mondelez, for those of you who don't know, Mondelez makes Oreos as well as many other things, right? But what their question was is how do they look at augmenting the humans that do product R&D? How do they increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the R&D process for how new products are explored and invented? So they literally created a platform that they called Creativity Augmented, which is a generative AI platform that is designed to truly come alongside. It's not replacing. So a lot of times we talk about in generative AI, is generative AI going to eliminate my job? Quite the contrary. Actually, what it eliminated was the grunt work of a lot of the idea generation so that the true creativity in the product researchers could be expanded. And the number of new products that a product researcher could explore over the same period of time went up significantly. And we saw a whole bunch of new products, new Oreo flavors and so forth, just proliferating in the market as a result of some of this enablement. So it's, and the other thing that's interesting about it is accumulating each researcher's insight that it feeds into a repository of knowledge that transforms the invention of new snacks across the board, not just Oreos or not just crackers or not just something else. There's a lot of cross-pollination in terms of how humans engage with snacks. So a fourth one is Total Wine. So Total Wine and More, they are the market leader in delivering the broadest product selection at the best price in their space. And so it doesn't happen by accident. They've spent a large number of years. They started as a family business with 3 stores. Now they have over 250 stores. But they have to use a very custom supply chain and merchandising solution because nothing on the market can address the complexity of all the regulations and rules that all the different municipalities have around how you can sell alcohol and spirits, and can you transfer product from one store to another in the state of Texas or not? How do you manage inventory? So it's literally a complex, almost hedging algorithm that they've mastered, but it needed to be modernized. And they also suffered from a very common problem we hear a lot is the business and IT were not as aligned as they could be. And so by introducing a product thinking approach, we've been able to unlock new levels of value and really help Total Wine understand that you can use a product thinking methodology to bridge that gap between the business and IT. And by focusing on jobs to be done and sharing that empathy for those merchandisers across engineers and product owners, you end up really accelerating and building a better product. And so it's a really great example of using product thinking to build better employee-facing systems. This is not a system that faces Total Wine customers. It's a system that faces their internal employees and makes them more effective. So what can we conclude from some of these stories? Product is everything. It's your revenue stream. It's your marketing channel. Hello. It's your talent attractor. And it's your brand identity. So it's not just about a widget that you put in the market to make money. It literally, most of us know, great employees, great people want to work for a company with a great product. A product is accretive to your brand, but if you aren't thinking about your website as a product, or your call center as a product, or your chatbot as a product, or your retail store as a product, you're not curating a consistent brand experience that's truly going to build brand equity. So you may have a great widget, but if all of those other touch points aren't accretive to that common customer experience, you're not going to build the type of brand equity that you want to try to achieve. So this is all about building the right thing. So we talk a lot about design thinking versus product thinking at Thoughtworks. You know, design thinking is the classic double diamond example of build the right thing and build the thing right. And traditionally in design thinking, it's more about are we using the power of empathy and tools like jobs to be done to really understand who that user archetype is and what's the problem we're trying to solve for them, and how are we delivering value to the user or the customer, and in so doing, we are capturing business value. And then the build the thing right was always more about how are we building the product or the software in a way that maintains the integrity of the design intent. Because we see a lot of systems where somebody hires an agency to come up with a great product concept, but then what's get built doesn't deliver on the promise, right? But I would posit that product thinking adds a whole nother layer on top of that around things like business value. So we talk about like Marty Kagan's 4 pillars, right? There's desirability, usability, feasibility, viability. And so the feasibility and viability pieces, I think, are typically nascent in traditional design thinking. And that's what really comes to the surface when we talk about product thinking. And how do we pull all those things together in a way that's holistic? And let's face it, it's hard to do. Why do so many people fail at this? And we see 3 reasons. The first reason is what I call inside-out thinking. So inside-out thinking is an example of that is someone will say, let's do omni-channel. We need to have omni-channel as a solution in our business. And they focus on the channels. They focus on the data integration between the web and the call center and the chat. They focus on the technology integration. But nobody talks about what is the What is the branded customer experience? That's the result of the omni-channel. So by focusing on the inside out, you miss the value proposition that will ultimately drive higher levels of brand equity in the market. Second big mistake we see is people think technology is a savior. Oh, let's deploy Salesforce. Salesforce has best practices in it. If we just deploy Salesforce, we'll be better at engaging our customers. Well, I'm not knocking Salesforce. Salesforce is a great platform. But when you just deploy Salesforce for the sake of deploying the platform, thinking that it's going to save your business, you're not going to get the outcomes that you want. And it happens all the time. The last one we see is silos, right? So we've all seen it. Silos between the business and IT. I have had so many client conversations over the last 30 years where it's the business comes up with what they want and IT determines how to deliver it. And it's a Chinese wall between the two. And they just throw up their requirements and hope that what they get solves their problems. And how many times we hear, oh, IT's too slow at delivering what we want, or they don't deliver what we want the way we want it. Well, it's because they're both equally at fault for not operating as partners around ideating and delivering this integrated customer experience. The other silo I see is product silos. So telco's a great example of this. You see telcos out there that have a home security solution, a mobility solution, a media streaming solution, home internet, and they're all independent product groups building their own customer engagement strategies. But when you do research and you find out what consumers want, is they want a simplified digital life. They've got a proliferation of connected devices in their house. They've got kids at home trying to do homework. Their Wi-Fi router's not adequate to support all these devices, and they're exasperated and overwhelmed. And so what they want is a simplified digital life, and they want all of these solutions to work together around what's my digital household. Yet very few telcos have figured that out and have an offering that's integrated around those areas. So let's talk a bit about building the thing right. So we've covered a lot around building the right thing. This next example is around what does it mean to build the thing right. So the first piece of building the thing right is I'm a huge fan of engineering participating in the generative design process. Why is it that we think engineers don't need to benefit from empathy? And designers need to be technology aware. So, because if you don't have designers and vital towards making better platform decisions. And so the story about BP that I think is really interesting is when we started on our journey with BP, they had a list of 25 innovation projects and they didn't know which one they wanted to do. We used our early product strategy and product thinking approach to help them land on this opportunity called Price Match. And Price Match was really interesting because when we looked at BP's brand, they have one of the strongest brands in the market around really clean gasoline that's high performance, and it actually has some of the lower emissions than the other major gasoline providers in the market. So most people that were loyal to BP love those brand attributes of BP. Yet because of that, BP is more expensive a lot of the time. And we found that about 5 to 10 cents a gallon difference was the key point where a customer, even though they prefer to get BP, they'll go somewhere else. And so we created the world's first subscription-based loyalty program where you pay 99 cents a month and they will price match the price of gas at the pump to any of the major competitors. And it was groundbreaking. And in the first 6 months, it generated payback for the entire cost of the program. But that's not where it stops. Our engineers realized that these core services like subscriptions and promotions were architectural components that they're going to want to do more of because they understood all of the other design ideas that hit the cutting room floor when we decided to prioritize on price match. And because we built it as a platform that was open, we like to call them experience APIs, right? So subscription was an experience API that any front end could engage with. It accelerated the delivery of new solutions for the UK, a whole branded solution for Germany, and a partnership with Uber, all within 12 to 16 weeks per initiative, because they were able to leverage this platform that was started in price match. So we didn't just price match by itself, you could say, was a successful project. I think what makes it a great product is the fact that it contributed to a platform that created all these other products that delivered value. Oh, I'm out of time, so I'll wrap up quickly. So we've covered a lot of ground here in terms of product as the golden thread. And there's no shortage of books about product management, agile, and platform architecture, but very few, if any, bring it all together. And so that's what we try to focus on at Thoughtworks, is to help our clients navigate that and bring all of those disciplines together. And it's when you take product thinking with engineering excellence is what really drives the best products for your business. And so make product thinking your go-to strategy as you think about navigating your product innovation adventures. And on your tables, we have a party gift for you all. You'll see a deck of cards. That's our product thinking playbook. This playbook is a collection of milestones, tactics, and techniques that comprise kind of a toolkit of all the tactics and techniques that you can utilize when you follow a product thinking endeavor. And we use them all the time with our clients to shape engagements and to craft how we're going to solve a given problem, because everybody's at different stages. Some people have done research already. Some people already have a concept. The nice thing about the playbook is you can craft a play for yourself for any given product that's going to work for that product situation. So I hope that this gave you something to think about today. I hope that as you listen to the other presentations today and tomorrow, you can see where product as the golden thread is going through all of these different initiatives. So even when we talk about technology initiatives like data mesh, what makes data mesh brilliant is data mesh is applying the principles of product thinking around designing data around data consumers. What makes digital platform strategies brilliant is designing domains and platforms around the consumers of those APIs and the consumers of those services. So somewhere there's a consumer of the product you're building that has a customer value proposition you can deliver on, and it's not just traditional products. It could be your data mesh or your digital platform. So thank you for your attention. I hope you have a great rest of your show.